Welcome to Shells After Dark Archives, the podcast where the veil between the known and the unknown is lifted. I'm your host Shell, and I'm here to guide you through the shadows of the supernatural. Here, we dive into chilling stories, unexplained mysteries, and real-life encounters with the paranormal. But this isn't just about storytelling, it's about the people behind the experiences. From ghost hunters to psychic mediums, UFO researchers to cryptid trackers, I'll be sitting down with those who dare to explore the strange and unusual. So, whether you're a skeptic, a believer, or just curious, get ready to embrace the unknown.
Turn off the lights, settle in, and prepare to journey into the After Dark archives.
Welcome back to another episode of Shell's Spooky Stories. I'm your host, Michelle, and today we're trying something a little bit different. I have with me the man behind the scene that I always talk about, nobody ever knows, but we have Tom. Tom, my wonderful podcast manager, YouTube manager, extraordinaire editor, etc., etc.
Hello.
Hello, Tom.
Hello, Michelle. Yeah, thank you for having me along today. This is lovely. I don't often get from behind the camera. I've we've been doing this for a year and a bit now, isn't it?
Yeah,
crazy,
like
amazing.
A year and 2 weeks, I
Telling
think.
spooky stories.
Yeah,
A year and it's been a very, very enjoyable year, and actually, I think this new format is very exciting. I want to hear all about it.
Well, let's go. So
Yes.
The new format that we're going to try is I've been working a lot on what I want Shell Spooky Stories to be. What am I passionate about? What do I want to put out into the world? What do I want people to know about me? And the things that I come up with are, I love ghost stories. I love the paranormal. I love hearing about other people's stories. And the main crux of it, which is our new tagline, I suppose, is every haunting has a heartbeat. Because these spirits that we see, hear about, read about, all the rest of it, they were people at some point. Who were they? What did they do? Where did they live? Who were they married to? Where did they go on their holidays? Did they go on holidays? All these questions, and mainly, why are they still here? Yeah. What do they want? What's keeping them here? These are the things that always fascinate me. So our new format is me interviewing people, such as yourself, Tom. You're number one. And hearing your stories, and us kind of doing a little bit of a deep dive and unpicking why that story came about, what have we learned from it, and what can we learn from it. So that's kind of what we're trying. See how it goes. I'm excited for it. Hopefully everyone else will like it.
I think this is really nice, because actually I think so we were talking just before we actually pressed record, and this idea that you were saying when you're out on investigations, you'll have you'll tell people what you're doing, and you may get either the kind of the interested or the roll of the eyes or whatever it is. But then when you say, when people can be quite forthcoming once they know you're a safe person to talk to them, that they go, oh yeah, I've seen a ghost, or I've had this happen to me, and they tell you these amazing stories. And I think this is really, really interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
I was just basically saying to Tom about my gaslighting family, who I don't think even listen to this, so they, it doesn't matter what I say. So that basically, as a medium, my whole life I've seen spirits, spoken about spirits, and been told or made out to be a little bit like I have imaginary friends, or I'm on the verge of psychiatric help. Very big difference. But I was just explaining a conversation I've had with my dad recently, where he was like, oh yes, I still see your mum and I see the dog, and when I was 18 and my dad died, I had a conversation with him. He was in his armchair, so I was a bit like, okay, so you've made me seem crazy for the rest of my life, most of my life, but you also see spirits, but you fail to mention this. And there was also my nanny's flat, my nanny's bungalow that she had. I used to drive up to it, or we used to drive up to it as a family, I'd always see this woman in the spare room at the front of the house in the window. And I knew she wasn't a family member. I knew it was my nanny and my uncle that lived there. So who was she? What was she doing there? A bit weird. I'd go into the spare room and she wouldn't be there. It was just always as we were arriving, she was kind of there watching us. And when I was having this conversation with my dad about him seeing ghosts, he was like, "Oh yeah, there was your nan had a woman that had in her bungalow. We all used to see it. My cousins have seen it, my sister's seen it, my mum's seen it, everyone's seen it, my nanny's seen it." And I was like, "Yeah, I know. I used to tell you all about it and you used to make out it was crazy, but you were all seeing it."
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, cheers.
Yes.
Yeah. Is it any wonder that I have some issues?
Well, I think this is the sort of the heart of it, is that actually when it gets down to it, even the sort of sometimes the most diehard skeptics will, with a little bit of pushing, go, "Oh well, there was this one time when," and we'll tell you an astonishing story. You think, okay, it's really. But I think what's really interesting in these situations is how the different reactions to people. Some people who will see something incredible and go, "It cannot possibly be, something supernatural or paranormal." And then there are those of us who see things and will go either, "That's amazing," or "That validates literally everything I've ever thought," or if or opens up an interesting sort of realm of possibility and sort of exploration. So I think, I would describe myself as para-curious as over the years.
Yeah.
So I've been always, I think we talked about this many times, I think my gateway drug to this was in the 80s with the PG Tips Mysteries, the Unexplained cards, which is probably about as benign a kind of an entry point into the world of the paranormal as it's possible to be. My grandparents gave, PG Tips drinkers, obviously. There
are other brands available.
There are other brands, but they gave me this. I mean, very sadly, they don't do this anymore. But obviously, the T cards, they gave me this stack of cards of just like random, and in there were mixed in like with birds of Britain and kind of all the other weird and wonderful things, like saddles from the ages or whatever kind of weird sort of selection of nonsense has been put in the tea. There was Mysteries of the Unexplained, or the PG Tips Unexplained Mysteries of the World. I can't remember precisely what it was called, but I remember looking through it, and it was things like sort of the crystal skull, Aztec crystal skull, and Bigfoot, and UFOs, and then it sort of had, and I think one of them was the brown lady of Raynham
Hall.
Raynham Hall. That picture was in there, and some of the other really famous ghost photographs were in there, and it really sort of sparked my curiosity about that. And then sort of I've been I would say a sort of a Fortean in my approach. I've sort of read Fortean Times for many years, and always had an interest in sort of the idea that we don't know everything, and that I'm open to a sort of possibility. The possibilities that my viewpoint on the world is not necessarily the most definitive one, and so you have to be willing to explore other people's sort of stories and experiences, and not just go, "That can't possibly be the case," and so I think that has been my sort of that was my standpoint. And I think when I had my spooky experience, that sort of, I think sort of opened up that it was we'll get onto that I guess in a minute, but that was a real sort of interesting stepping stone into sort of, I don't know, all sorts of other things.
Yeah, I think everyone has that kind of gateway thing. I mean, my husband says he's a skeptic, but I just think, are you though? Because you're very into sci-fi. Like, where do you think the sci-fi stuff comes from? Like, there's the idea that everyone has an idea. Whatever's created comes from an idea, which an idea is, what do they say? Like, you must have seen it at some point for it to be in your brain for you to actually process. So have you seen an alien? And that's why you're in, you know, it's such a.
I think skepticism is an entirely valid point, but I think, you know, I think being skeptical and not being willing to sort of explore ideas in an open-minded way, I think that's where we get into possibly difficult situations where people will just dismiss stuff out of hand and go, well, that can't possibly be real because, you know, because of, you know, they'll say because X or Y or Z isn't real, and go, well, that's, you know, that's one viewpoint, you know. Let's get let's get, I think, you know, I think healthy skepticism is valuable in any kind of investigation. But
I think when I'm on investigations, I'm actually quite skeptical. If I hear a bang, my immediate thing is like, oh my god, it's a ghost. I'm like, well, I mean, for example, we were in a big corridor and there was a door like by me, and then Liz was sort of the other side of that door in the corridor, and everyone else was further down the actual corridor itself. And we had this tap in, and I was like, we both looked at each other, and we weren't immediately like, oh my god, it's a ghost. We were like, well, where's that coming from? So we opened the door and we saw that there was heating inside, like the heating things. And I was like, well, it's coming from that's making that noise. So we don't, you know, immediately go like, oh, it's a ghost. If there was a full-figured apparition in front of me that I can see, then I will say there's a man stood there.
Ghost.
Like there's a man in uniform stood there, like I can see him, then that's a ghost. But if I hear a little tapping or knocking, you know, that could be anything. So you have to investigate it. So I do think when it comes to investigations, I do have a very skeptical first, which, even being as a medium, that is quite hard to differ. You know the word I'm trying to say.
But I think that is the sensible way to be, because I think if you, you know, there's open-minded, and then there's being so open-minded that literally everything comes in. I think, you know, you sort of, you know, the world of the conspiracy theory is a great example of what can happen when you literally believe anything. When you'll go on, you know, you go onto Twitter and see people, you're thinking, how on earth have you come to believe that? And it's like, I would examine stuff with an open-minded attitude, but when something is, you look at something and go, even like the most cursory look at this, feels like it's a reach at best, you know. But you know, so I think being a skeptical inquirer is even when you have strongly held you know, standpoints, I think is still really valuable, because you keep on questioning that. And then when you do have genuine experiences, I think you can sort of assess them and interrogate them with a lot more sort of certainty. I think if you do take a rational, but also the people around you, the way they see you and the way they sort of they interact with you, they know, if people know you to be a fair-minded, skeptical inquirer, investigator, then I think your voice carries way more weight and value, rather than being somebody who literally believes anything they hear.
There are quite a few of those out there.
Absolutely, in all walks of life. I mean, I think, you know, I think we could, it's not just this, you know, this spooky world, which is you know, it's
it's I mean, it happens with pretty much anything, really, doesn't it? Because you do have those people that will literally believe everything that the newspapers or the news put in front of us. And then there's people that will read what the paper says, and then they'll be like, well, hang on a minute, they say that, this one says this, like, what is the truth? And then there's other people that were like, well, the media lie about everything, like, let's not even entertain it.
Exactly. So it's finding that, I think it's finding that middle ground. And I think whilst the middle ground is often described as being, you know, a bit boring, I think it's the place where you can find the most out. Sometimes, you know, you've got to be daring. You know, I'm not saying you're not daring. And I think kind of, you know, if you are sort of open-minded but willing to ask difficult questions, I think you're likely to get more in. You know, you'll get more negatives than positives, I think. But when the positives do come along, they really count.
Yeah. What do they call it? Discernment, isn't it? Where
Yeah,
you like take
exactly.
something and then
Yeah,
you kind of have to use your own reasoning
yeah,
as
yeah,
to
yeah, exactly,
what it
exactly.
is. Yeah.
Yeah. So I
See,
think
I
that,
know big
yeah,
words.
yeah, exactly. Very good.
If only my husband actually listened to this podcast, he would know that I know big words.
Yes, it's very good. I exhort anybody to, this podcast is excellent, and I love working on it. And actually, the the sort of the spooky stories have always been. In fact, there's been so many that I've come across over the last year that I'd never come across before, which has
Mm.
been great. But yeah, so
I like to open the mind of people.
yes, exactly.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So let's hear about your spooky story.
Well, I'm going to start by taking you all the way back to 1996, the
I
summer
got
of
really
19.
sucked in then.
Yes, the summer of 1996. It was an August, and I was doing my Duke of Edinburgh residential at Tewkesbury Abbey, and I was part of a conservation team that was working on the Abbey. It was for an organisation called Cathedral Camps, and with Duke of Edinburgh Gold, you had to go and do a week's residential, doing something kind of high-minded. Yeah. And so I left it to the last minute to get mine organised. And I found this organisation called Cathedral Camps, which admittedly did sound like the dorkiest thing on the planet. And I went along, and I've always been interested in art and architecture. So I looked at it and thought, actually, this I read all the stuff, all the brochures and things like that, and was like, no, this seems great. So I applied and ended up going along for 10 days to be part of this conservation team. There were about 20 young people there, and we were I mean, it was really good fun actually, and I ended up volunteering for the organisation for about 10 years, and sort of ended up on the board of the charity. So it was the start of something really enjoyable for me. But Tewkesbury Abbey is in Gloucestershire. It is originally a Norman abbey that was then significantly altered during the kind of 13th and 14th centuries, and then was significantly knocked about during the restoration, the dissolution of the monasteries. So it's a really old site. It's a very beautiful abbey. It's got these huge Norman piers all running down the nave, and it's we'll put some pictures in, but it's really a very striking building. We'd been there, probably about 4 or 5 days. And so in the evening, it was lovely summer evenings. You'd go out and sort of sit on the lawns, or go down to one of the pubs and have a pint by the river. And there were 4 of us all together walking back. Admittedly, and the bit that I tell, and people go, "Oh, well, of course you were all drunk." We were walking back from the pub, and you had to walk through the graveyard of the church. It's quite a big graveyard, and there were 4 of us, all sort of two pairs of people, sort of probably about a couple of meters apart, back. And as we walked through the graveyard, hovering about sort of, so with Tewkesbury Abbey, you've got the main sort of main entrance for the church on one of the transepts, and about, so it's a building I know quite well, so about 20 meters away from the door, there's a pathway down, sort of lined with short yew trees, and then a gap, and in the gap, hovering out between a couple of gravestones, was a light. And we all stopped, and we said to each other, "Can you see that?" And it was a floating orb, probably about the size of my fist, and it was just moving, kind of in a very sort of slow way, this point of light, and a sort of a nimbus around it. As you got closer to it, you could see that it was like a point of light and a nimbus. And we were like moved around it. None of us were brave enough to go and touch it. And I really sort of, I don't know, part of me wonders, I wonder what would have happened had I done that.
Get sucked into another
Yes.
dimension.
So, where's Tom gone? And then it all of it sort of moved around, and then it just disappeared. And we were all like, what the hell was that? Was that a ghost? What have we just seen? Now,
Yeah.
it doesn't sound very interesting. It's like floating points of light. It's an orb, but I think as we sort of, you know, the sort of orb ghosts or orb whatever they are, the orbs are quite sort of well documented as kind of both actually within the whole UFO world, and you know, it's one of these things where you just don't know. But the context and the fact that I saw it with 4 other people, and actually one of the people that I saw it with sort of. This is probably about 10 years after I sort of ended up getting back in touch, and we were chatting about Tewkesbury, and I said, do you remember seeing the ghost in the grave? And she said, yeah, I've never forgotten it. So it was one of those things I was like able to get validation after the fact that I wasn't just like having some kind of weird misremembered thing.
Yeah.
So it was, at no point was it scary. It was just weird, but really nicely weird. It was one of those things where it was an experience. Had I seen it on my own, I would have completely doubted it. But seeing it with 3 other people and us being at different points, so it wasn't. We could see that it wasn't sort of a reflection of something. We could see that it wasn't a sort of a trick of the light. It was a moving point of light, which then disappeared on its own, and it was such a specific thing, and so in some ways so boring, but at the same time so inexplicable.
Yeah.
It's like, what was it? It was bright enough that it wasn't sort of. It was a will o' the wisp. I mean, it was kind of that kind of. It was one of the classic kind of ghost light things that I think you sort of you read about, and for me, it was such a particular point of experience, and there was no what's interesting, there was no associated feeling other than mild curiosity. And I look back to that and think that's in some ways that's quite a weird reaction to have, because it was in a graveyard. It was at the it was probably about 11:30 at night, so it was that sort of summer evening, not fully dark but not fully dark, so it was that sort of twilighty feel, which can sometimes do funny things to your vision, but it was clear enough and it was specific enough that it was that I don't feel like I've got reason to doubt what I saw. But the experience sort of the effect of the experience was to sort of give me permission to go, oh, okay, I feel comfortable that there is now more to this world than meets the eye. You might have that feeling, but at the same time you can go, it's quite easy to dismiss. But this felt like a piece of undeniable experience or evidence. I hesitate to use the word evidence because there is nothing other than my personal recollection and the recollection of the other people there. But it was an odd enough experience that it really stuck with me, and it sort of opened my thinking up. Like I say, quite a boring encounter, but from a personal point of view, really impactful.
Yeah. See, I don't think that's boring. Like, I'd quite like to see something like that. I'd find it quite interesting.
Oh, it was.
I mean, maybe I've probably seen things like that.
Yeah.
I think that with me, I've seen so many things that it's hard to like remember what I've seen. And and when I was younger, it was definitely a case of I didn't really know what I'd seen because it was so clear they were like humans anyway, like as I would see you or whatever. So it's hard to tell the difference. Obviously now, because I experience it differently, I can tell what's an experience and what isn't. So was it actually above a grave or?
Yes, it was. Yeah, it was actually. So it was moving, but it was moving sort of. It was moving sort of above and between, so that it wasn't completely static. It was actually sort of, there was movement in it. It was just
like hovering.
Yes, it was hovering, and it was probably about, I mean, I wasn't wearing glasses then. I didn't need glasses, but it was hovering. So, you know, one of the other things, like, is it a reflection of my glasses or something like that?
Yeah.
It was hovering at about eye height. And so, you know, I'm trying. Thing is, with these things, you think back to it, and you try and get the clearest image. I do have a really, really clear image of it.
Mm.
You want to sort of tell it without embellishment, but it was just a hovering light at about eye height, which was sort of there and gone. And it was
Yeah.
it was such a peculiar thing, because it was yeah, not
Mm.
nothing particularly kind of, there was no feeling of kind of, no, there was no associated feeling, like I say, unless with, you know, that wasn't just like a mild curiosity, and that was from
Yeah.
everyone. But
Yeah. I know what you mean, because I come across things and
mm,
you can sense like a sadness or
mm,
like a sense of being trapped or
mm,
suffocation or, you know, something like that.
yeah,
Dread, you know, there's loads of different things you can experience when you go
yeah,
on paranormal investigations.
yeah,
So yeah, I get what you mean. Like, there's just a sense of like, oh, what is that?
yeah.
I would have been trying to touch it and things.
Well, yeah, you know, it was weird, because I think, I mean, you know, it's sort of, now my instinct would be to go and go, oh, I wonder what that is. And it was a sort of
Yeah.
a blue, it was a bluey white light as well, so it was
Yeah.
quite a specific color. It wasn't just a sort of, you know, white light. It had a sort of a blue tinge to it.
Mm. Yeah. See, that's what I always think about with orbs and stuff, the colours behind them, because
Mm,
I know where mediums have spoken about orbs and stuff, they've said that if it's got a green light, it's like to do with Archangel Raphael
mm,
and healing. If it's got a blue light, it will be to do with Michael.
mm. Ah,
You
I
know,
didn't know
and
that.
the colour you know, blue's a calming colour. There's
Mm,
all different colours and, you know, things that relate to them.
mm,
And there's all the archangels are on a colour spectrum as
mm,
well. So um yeah, it makes me wonder. The reason I asked about the graveyard thing is like whether it was above a grave or like if sort of going in between a
mm.
few of them. Like, was it a spirit of the actual graveyard walking around, or was it a spirit of that actual grave?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's interesting. That's where my brain goes.
yeah, and you know, what I would have liked to have done was maybe sort of spoken to some of the full-time staff there about it. And I think sort of
Mm,
in hindsight, it's kind of a, you know, you have these regrets. I mean, this was, you know, I was 16 at the time. It's like I was quite a shy 16-year-old as well. So it was sort of, it was you know what, it was the first time I'd ever been to a pub that week. It was
16.
I was a slow
Yeah, I was
starter.
in one at 14.
I know. Looking back to the 90s, it was like, and it, you know, I think it set the tone, because it was like an English riverside country pub where I had a pint of ale. And I was like, I went straight in for, you know, no, it was the 90s, no alcohol
Yeah.
pops for me, thanks. I just like, just a pint of bitter, please. And that's really been the tone ever since. Yeah.
Don't blame you.
Yeah.
Don't blame you at all.
Um,
Yeah, it's interesting. So have you had any other experience since that, or
really disappointing, not in that sense. I mean, you know, I've had sort of what I'd call meditative out of body experiences, which have been very sort of deliberately pursued, and
yeah,
some really, really specific dreams, like,
yeah,
as in sort of which have felt, which have had, I don't know, would you, I mean, it's because I've been working my way through the Gateway sort of meditation series for the last couple of years, and a lot of it has been sort of associated, all those kind of experiences been associated with that, and that's been a really fascinating experience. I think that's a whole different discussion, to be honest, but nothing on the same sort of level where I could look at it with really sort of, I can look at that experience and go, that definitely happened, and
yeah,
it was definitely weird. It was there was no, for me there was absolutely zero ambiguity about it. It was a very specific and definable experience. Whereas I think anything else that has happened to me where I've had sort of what I call uncanny experiences, you can chalk up to other things. It's like when we moved. So this is one of these things which falls under uncanny rather than definitely sort of anything specifically supernatural. But when we in 1993, we moved house to mum and dad moved house to a farm in Worcestershire called Woodhouse Farm, and there was just about sort of 20 acres of woodland associated with the farm. And so I would just, I'd take myself off into the woods and just kind of sort of stroll around. And the first day we were there, I went down into the woods and sat on a log, and out of the woods came a vixen. Just walked out and sat down. And I was sat on a log, and she just came out and sat down in front of me, literally like sort of half a meter in front of me, looked up at me, cocked her head, fixed her eyes on me, put her head the other side, sat there for another minute, just looking at me. And I was like dead still, because I was like, what is going on? Sort of, there was almost like a, all right, and then turned around and walked off. Just turned around and walked back into the woods. It was one of those sort of, it was as though, and I've always, and this is one of those things where you think this is just, I don't know what that was, but it felt like a sort of, oh, you're the new people here, are you? Just checking you out. Okay, you'll do fine, right. We can move on now. Yeah.
In my head was like spirit of the land.
Yeah, it was. And the woods there have always felt very kind of. Some of the places in the woods feel like uncomfortable, and other places like there's a place we ended up making a lovely campsite in, and sort of, that's always felt like a very kind of lovely and safe place. And but there are other places in the woods which have always felt sort of a little bit. It's been that sort of creeping sense you're being watched in parts of them, and but that the fox coming in sort of checking me out was definitely that felt like an uncanny moment. Other things have happened, but I wouldn't know how to describe them in I couldn't sort of tell you in quite so certain terms. But that's another sort of thing that's really stuck with me. Well,
it's not every day that a fox like turns up. I mean, there's loads if you go on TikTok where people have like adopted foxes in their gardens and what have you. But it's not every day that you like just walk somewhere and a fox just sits there, like looks at you, gives you a nod, and then it felt like a real sort of checking out, going, oh, okay, fine, you guys will do fine, right, I'm on to the next thing. That though. I like the feeling. Like I always think, how much I really want to inherit, and if anyone's listening and they have an old castle or mansion or whatever, just an old building will do. I'm not fussy, but if you don't have anyone that you can leave it to, please feel free to leave it to me. I will look after it with every essence of my being. But I always think that if I had a property like that I would look after it and honour it so much. Like I would work, and I think that's why I like these chateau programs, is because they listen to what the building wants. Yeah. They let the building dictate what it's to renovate next. Yeah. Usually by a big leak or a ceiling falling down, but they prioritise the building rather than going in and being like what they want to do. I mean, for example, my aunt and uncle, they had this beautiful grade 2 listed, I think it was like a Georgian house on an estate, and it had the big massive pillars at the front, absolutely stunning. They spent so much time, money, effort to renovate it. When they sold it to a couple from like London who came in and modernised everything. And my aunt said she went back and it like tore her apart because she had seen what they'd done.
And she was heartbreaking.
I wish you do that. And I think that's why I also like keeping these stories of spirits alive, because it's honouring what's came before us and keeping that memory alive.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And I think that's really important.
Like we don't just die and disappear.
Yeah.
Like we need to like remember these stories and remember there's like stories that my nan used to say to me, like old wives' tales and things that I still remember. And every time something happens, I'll be like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And it'll be something that she said that I've heard. But if I don't tell other people that will just be gone.
Yeah.
It won't like live on.
But it's that cultural, it's that culture, still. I think what's interesting is that you get the world of ghost stories and folklore and tales about the land and the heritage are often of sort of the land are so often so profoundly intertwined that it's that the telling of the ghost story becomes a much more significant act in some ways, because it's usually associated with a piece of history of a specific place and time, and it's the whole thing sort of perpetuates a sort of, I don't know, a sense of the place and a sense of the story of places. It's as much about the kind of the ongoing narrative of the place. Otherwise, you take Borley Rectory is kind of an interesting example. The building that was burnt out, that place could have been completely forgotten and just sort of, but actually the sort of the stories that get told about that place and the sort of the whole thing, it perpetuates it kind of, it feels like it can feel more like folklore a lot of the time, and a lot of these stories follow kind of folklore story patterns. And I think that's why it's kind of easy to dismiss stuff if you are skeptically minded, because a lot of the stories do sound like fairy tales, and but then we forget that fairy tales are cautionary tales, and they're ways of understanding the world around us.
But it's the same with history, though, isn't it? Like history is only one person's account of something.
Yeah.
So we trust that person telling us the story. But I mean, how many times have we heard like our uncles or grandparents telling us a story and then being like, well, that sounds a bit far-fetched. And then you listen to your nan going like, it wasn't like that at all.
Yes, yeah.
What it did was blah, blah, blah. And you're like, well, how do we know that all these like things that we think are history aren't that? Like, it's just one person's account of something. How do we know that's true?
Yeah.
We just have to take it with a pinch of salt, or investigate it more, or keep the story alive. It's a very wide open concept, isn't it, really?
It is, but I really like it, and I think sort of, I suppose as the kind of editor and producer, I think it's really exciting to sort of to see who comes forward, and I know you've got some really great people lined up to come and be the kind of the real kind of storytellers for this. I think this is I think this is a really lovely way to go, and I think I also love the fact that you're sort of leaning into this idea of you being a curator of not just a curator of past lives, and stories of kind of the stories behind the ghosts and the spirits.
I want to keep things alive for like the future, and keep memories of people alive, because these were important people to someone, weren't they?
Yes.
So it's sad to, like, even if it's like the ghost of a scullery maid, she was still like a scullery maid who was a daughter to somebody, or sister, whatever.
There's a life lived there.
She's lived there, and generally in these massive houses they were there more than the people that actually owned the bloody places.
Yes, exactly.
So they were more important to that place than anyone. I also can't tell you how sad I am that Borley Rectory isn't an actual place that I can go to. I would love to go there. but it's
Yeah.
obviously not there anymore.
No. Well, this is it. But the story lives on, doesn't it? You know, the kind of
Yeah, I've got books behind me all about it.
The legend sort of is the you know, more powerful than probably walking around a national, what may have become a National Trust place, and someone saying, "Well, back in the 1920s, this was the site of," and you go, but actually the fact that it burnt out and then, you know, lived on with in all these stories almost makes it a more powerful storytelling experience, because, you know, you've got
adds more to it.
Yeah, it lives in the imagination.
Yeah, that's true. So thank you for sharing your story, Tom.
It's all right.
I will be thinking about what that little light was.
Yes.
Which is part of the joy of this whole thing.
Yeah.
But what I want to ask you, and what I'm going to ask everyone in some form, manner, is, we all have a time scale. Eventually, we're all going to go into that afterlife. So when you do go into the afterlife, what would your story? What would you want your story to be? What would you want people to, like, think about or remember?
I think this is really, you know, this is the crux of it, isn't it? I think the sort of fatalists in it. So I would say, like, 99.99% of all humans get forgotten within a couple of generations. And if you can be somebody who, at least for that time, is remembered for being a kind and decent human, then I think you've won. If you are somebody who gets remembered longer than that, the chances are you've either done something really, really good or really, really bad.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think a lot of us can be very happy that if we're remembered by the next couple of generations as somebody who caused more joy than they did grief, then that is a good way to go. But you know, failing, you know, sort of, I've just listened to like a 5-part series on Nelson, on the Ultimate Dad podcast. The rest is history, and that is, you know, that's an example of somebody who completely lives as a legend. But there's so much information about the man because he wrote all the time. He was a deeply flawed human, but, you know, there's being remembered for being heroic, there's being remembered for being evil, there's being remembered for being really good. But I think being remembered by the people you care about the most because you were a decent human being, I think is the best. Yeah,
you're definitely winning at life and the afterlife.
Yes, exactly. Whatever that might look like, I think, you know, whether it is, you know, whatever form we do, sort of whatever comes next, if you can at least leave this life knowing you've done more good than bad, then I think that is a good place to be.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'd be also interested if people could let me know in the comments what they would like to be remembered for. That would be quite nice. I'd like to read those and hear what people want to be remembered as. Yeah, that would be nice. And also, if they could like and subscribe, that would be even better.
That is very, very true.
Yes, we would appreciate it.
Like and subscribe, people. This is a channel that is fantastic and needs more people to know about it. Yes, exactly.
So join us, and we will be back on the next one. We're trying some different dates at the moment, aren't we, Tom? To see what works. But it will be weekly. We will be weekly. We're not going to disappear.
No. I think sort of the one thing that is certain is that, you know, a week release is not going anywhere, but it's the when is the, I'm not sure, you know. Testing and measuring.
Sure either, but the joys of being a creator, you've got to try these things, haven't you? That algorithm is relentless. I know what that will be remembered for in the afterlife, I can tell you that much.
Yes.
Yeah. Insert some beats.
Yes.
Well, thank you everyone for watching. Thank you, Tom, for being part of this.
Thank you.
For the whole year that you've been a part of it, and in this trial episode of our new, what do you call it? New series?
Format, series.
Format, going forward.
Yes, yeah.
It's been really interesting. And I think this will be really quite special moving forward, hearing everyone's stories. And if you've got a story and you want to come on and tell me about it, please do let me know. All the links are in the description that you can get in contact with us. And thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please like, share, subscribe, all of that jazz. And we will see you next week.
Thank you for joining me on this journey into the unknown on Shell's After Dark archives. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a story that sends chills down your spine. I'd love to hear about your own paranormal experiences, so drop a comment or send me a message. Your story might even be featured in a future episode, and if you're loving the show, please leave a like and share it with your fellow seekers of the supernatural. For those who want even more exclusive content, behind-the-scenes insights, and bonus episodes, join the membership. You'll find the link in the description below. Your support keeps the lights off and the stories coming. Until next time, stay curious, stay brave, and keep exploring the shadows. See you in the archives, after dark.